Hello everyone. Today we will be studying about Erikson's psychosocial theory of personality. The main objectives of this lesson are to understand the background of Erikson, introduction to the theory, and we will be also looking at the 8 psychosocial stages of personality development. So, under this theory, which is called as Erikson's psychosocial theory for personality development, first we will be looking at the background of Erikson. Erikson was a German-American developmental psychologist and psychoanalyst known for his theory on psychological development of human beings. He was the person who coined the term identity crisis. Erikson had no college degree of any kind, but this lack of formal training did not prevent him from gaining any knowledge in an impressive variety of fields, including psychoanalysis, anthropology, psychohistory, and education. Unlike earlier psychodynamic theorists who served nearly all ties to Freudian psychoanalysis, Erikson intended his theory of personality to extend rather than repudiate Freud's assumptions and to offer a new way of looking at things. His post-Freudian theory extended Freud's infantile developmental stages into adolescence, adulthood, and old age. Erikson suggested that at each specific stage, psychosocial struggle contributes to the formation of personality. From adolescence on, that struggle takes the form of an identity crisis, which is a turning point in one's life that may either strengthen or weaken the personality of an individual. Erikson regarded his post-Freudian theory as an extension of psychoanalysis, something Freud might have done in time. Although he used Freudian theory as the foundation for his life cycle approach to personality, Erikson differed from Freud in several respects. In addition to elaborating on psychosexual stages beyond childhood, Erikson placed more emphasis on both social and historical influences. Erikson identified 8 stages, each of which includes a conflict or developmental task. The development of a healthy personality and a sense of competence depend on the successful completion of each task. Erikson was interested in how social interaction and relationships played a role in the development and growth of human beings. Erikson believed that we are aware of what motivates us throughout life and that the ego has greater importance in guiding our actions than does the id. We make conscious choices in our life, and these choices focus on meeting certain social and cultural needs rather than purely biological ones. Humans are motivated, for instance, by the need to feel that the world is a trustworthy place, that we are capable individuals, that we make a contribution to the society, and that we have lived a meaningful life. These are all psychosocial problems. While Freud's theory of psychosexual development essentially ends at the early adulthood, Erikson's theory described development through the entire lifespan, right from the birth of an individual until the death. Now, we come into the introduction of the theory. Erikson has a significant contribution in the theories of personality development. The theory of psychosocial development is a well-known theory of Erikson which tries to explain the development of personality which takes place through a series of stages since childhood. The theory of psychosocial development describes the impact of social experience across the whole lifespan. In the process of social interaction, a person develops a sense of identity of oneself. Ego identity is one of the important concepts of Erikson's theory. This is the term given to the conscious sense of self that one develops through social interactions. According to Erikson, this sense of self changes as one goes through the various stages of personality development. In every stage of life, there is new information and experience that are present in one's life. These are the challenges one faces to the sense of self or ego identity. The experience of facing these challenges determines one's ego identity and also shapes one's perception of the whole life. There are challenges which one faces in daily interactions in our society, and how one deals with it forms part of one's personality. In addition to ego identity, Erikson also believed that a sense of competence motivates behaviors and actions. Each stage in Erikson's theory is concerned with becoming competent in an area of life. If the stage is handled well, the person will feel a sense of mastery, which is sometimes referred to as ego strength or ego quality. If the stage is managed poorly, the person will emerge with a sense of inadequacy. Erikson also believed that the ego develops throughout the various stages of life according to an epigenetic principle. This epigenetic principle is a term borrowed from embryology. Epigenetic development implies a step-by-step growth of fetal organs. The embryo does not begin as a completely formed little person waiting to merely expand its structure and form. Rather, it develops or should develop according to a predetermined rate and in a fixed sequence. If the eyes, liver or other organs do not develop during that critical period for their development, then they will never attain proper maturity. In similar fashion, the ego follows the path of epigenetic development, with each stage developing at its proper time. One stage emerges from and is built upon a previous stage, but it does not replace that earlier stage. Erikson's theory is based on what he calls this epigenetic principle, encompassing the notion that we develop through an unfolding of our personality in predetermined stages, and that our environment and surrounding culture influence how we progress through these stages. This biological unfolding in relation to our socio-cultural settings is done in stages of psychosocial development, where progress through each stage is in part determined by our success or lack of success in all the previous stages. Now, we look into the various psychosocial developmental stages. Coming to the first stage, stage 1, which is trust versus mistrust. This happens approximately from 0 years to 2 years, and in each stage we have an existential question. In stage 1, it is, can I trust the world? This is the first stage of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. This stage occurs in between birth to 2 years of age of a child. It is a significant stage because at this phase of life, an infant is totally dependent on quality of care given. If the proper care is given to a child, the child will develop trust. This is considered important as this basic trust in the caregiver will make a child feel safe and secure in most of its future interactions. If the caregiver is inconsistent, not dependable and rejecting in nature, the child develops a sense of mistrust which is carried over in future interactions. Thus, when the child develops basic trust in the caregiver, a sense of hope and confidence in the world is developed. This would result in the child having an optimistic view of the world. The opposite is true for those children who fail to develop this trust. Their sense of mistrust leads them to experience depression, and they could be withdrawn from people and even develop paranoia at a later point of time. According to Erik Erikson, the major developmental task in infancy is to learn whether or not other people, especially primary caregivers, regularly satisfy basic needs. If the caregivers are consistent sources of food, comfort and affection, an infant learns trust. Others are dependable and reliable. If they are neglectful or perhaps even abusive sometimes, the infant instantly learns mistrust. That is, the world is an undependable, unpredictable and possibly a dangerous place. Now looking into the stage 2, which is autonomy versus shame and doubt. This extends from 2 years to 4 years. And in this stage, the existential question is it okay to be me? So the second stage of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development occurs during early childhood. At this stage, children are focused on developing a greater sense of personal control. Erikson believed that toilet training was a vital part of this process. He believed that learning to control one's bodily functions leads to a feeling of control and a sense of independence. Likewise, developing control over the choice of food, toys or other clothing is important in personality development. If a child is able to have a sense of personal control, he or she will feel secure and confident, and if they do not succeed, then it might lead to a sense of inadequacy and self-doubt. Thus, autonomy develops if a child is guided positively through praise, firmness, encouragement and gentleness to become independent. This will result in the child having a sense of will and good self-esteem. If parents are too permissive, harsh or demanding, the child can feel defeated and experience extreme shame and doubt. This might result in maladaptive ways of gaining a feeling of control, power or competence. At this age, children develop their first interests. Highly restrictive parents, however, are more likely to instill in the child a sense of doubt and reluctance to attempt new challenges. As they gain increased muscular coordination and mobility, toddlers become capable of satisfying some of their own needs. They begin to feed themselves, wash and dress themselves and use the bathroom by themselves. If caregivers encourage self-sufficient behavior, toddlers develop a sense of autonomy, that is, a sense of being able to handle many problems on their own. But if caregivers demand too much, too soon, or alternatively refuse to let children perform tasks of which they are capable of, or ridicule early attempts at self-sufficiency, children may instead develop shame and doubt about their ability to handle problems. Now, we look at stage 3, which is initiative versus guilt. The approximate age for this stage is between 4 years to 5 years. And the existential question at this stage is it okay for me to do, move and act? So, the third stage occurs during the preschool years when the child starts asserting his or her power and is able to get a control over the world, his or her surroundings through directing play and other social interactions. Children who are successful at this stage feel capable and able to lead others. Those who fail to acquire these skills are left with a sense of guilt, self-doubt and lack of initiative. Preschoolers are increasingly able to accomplish tasks on their own and can start new things. With this growing independence, the child has many choices about activities to be pursued. Sometimes children take on projects they can readily accomplish, but at other times they undertake projects that are beyond their capabilities or what interfere with other people's plans and activities. If the parents and preschool teachers encourage and support children's efforts while also helping them make realistic and appropriate choices, children develop initiative, independence in planning and undertaking activities. But instead, adults discourage the pursuit of independent activities or dismiss them as silly and bothersome. Children will develop guilt about their needs and desires. Now coming to the stage 4, which is industry versus inferiority, and this extends approximately from 5 years to 12 years, and the existential question for this stage is, Can I make it in the world of people and things? This stage covers the early school years and is a latency stage. At this stage of lifespan, a child starts developing a sense of pride in their accomplishments and abilities with the help of social interactions. And if the child is encouraged and praised by the parents and teachers, then he or she develops a feeling of competence and belief in their skills. Those who receive little or no encouragement from parents, teachers or peers will doubt their abilities to be successful. If caretakers do not support the child, feelings of inferiority are likely to develop, and this might lead the child to become underachiever. Encouraging the child to feel overcompetent might make a child a shallow person, not being able to reflect on personal deficits. Children at this age are becoming more aware of themselves as individuals. They work hard at being responsible, being good, and doing it right. At this stage, children are eager to learn and accomplish more complex skills, that is, reading, writing, and telling the time. They also get to form moral values, recognize cultural and individual differences, and are able to manage most of their personal needs and grooming with minimal assistance. At this stage, children might express their independence by talking back and being disobedient and rebellious. Erikson viewed the elementary school years as critical for the development of self-confidence. Now we move on to stage 5. Here it is identity versus role confusion, and the approximate age over here is 13 to 19 years, and the existential question at this stage is, who am I and what can I be? The 5th stage of development occurs at the stage of adolescence. At this stage, children explore their independence and develop a sense of self. Those who receive a proper encouragement and reinforcement through personal exploration will emerge from this stage with a strong sense of self and a feeling of independence and control. Those who remain unsure of their beliefs and desires will feel insecure and confused about themselves and the future. The adolescent is newly concerned with how they appear to others and who they are becoming. The adolescent cares deeply about what others think about him. He may make choices that are outside of his actual self in order to appear different to his peers. For instance, the adolescent may choose to smoke even if he doesn't truly want to smoke, if he believes it will make him appear cooler to his peers. However, the adolescent does not only care about peer approval, the adolescent also cares about his own life path and where he is heading. The ability to settle on a school. In later stages of adolescence, the child develops a sense of sexual identity. As they make the transition from childhood to adulthood, adolescents ponder the roles they will play in the adult world. Initially, they are apt to experience some role confusion, mixed ideas and feelings about the specific ways in which they will fit into society, and may even experiment with a variety of behaviors and activities. Erikson is credited with coining the term identity crisis. Each stage has its own crisis. However, this particular stage, that is adolescence, arguably has the most significant crisis as a person is transitioning from a child to an adult. Now moving on to stage 6, which is intimacy versus isolation. The approximate age for this stage is between 20 years to 24 years or sometimes 24 years to 39 years, and the existential question for this stage is, can I love? This stage covers the period of early adulthood. This is a stage in which people start exploring personal relationships. Erikson believed it was vital that people develop close, committed relationships with other people and have an ability to experience intimacy. Those who are successful at this stage will form relationships that are committed and secure. At the start of this stage, identity versus role confusion is coming to an end, though it still lingers at the foundation of the stage. Young adults are still eager to blend their identities with friends. They want to fit in. Erikson believes we are sometimes isolated due to intimacy. We are afraid of rejections such as being turned down or our partners breaking up with us. We are familiar with pain, and some of us rejection is so painful that our egos cannot bear it. Erikson also argues that intimacy has a counterpart, which is distanciation, that is the readiness to isolate and if necessary to destroy those forces and people whose essence seems dangerous to our own and whose territory seems to encroach on the extent of one's intimate relationships. Now we come to stage 7, which is generactivity versus stagnation, and this stage approximately starts between 25 to 64 and 40 to 64 years. The existential question for this stage is, can I make my life count? This stage occurs during middle adulthood. People continue to build their lives through various ways such as building a career and bringing up or caring for a family. Those who are successful during this phase will feel that they are contributing to the world by being active in their home and community. Those who fail to attain this skill will feel unproductive and uninvolved in the world. Generactivity is the concern of guiding the next generation. Socially valued work and disciplines are expressions of generactivity. The adult stage of generactivity has broad application to family relationships, work and society. Generactivity then is primarily the concern in establishing and guiding the next generation. The concept is meant to include productivity and creativity. During middle age, the primary developmental task is one of contributing to the society and helping to guide future generations. When a person makes a contribution during this period, perhaps by raising a family or working toward the betterment of society, a sense of generactivity, productivity and accomplishment results. In contrast, a person who is self-centered and unable or unwilling to help the society move forward develops a feeling of stagnation, which is dissatisfaction with the relative lack of productivity. Now, moving on to the last stage of this theory, which is stage 8, integrity versus despair. This stage starts at 65 years and continues till death. And the existential question in this stage is it okay to have been me? This is a phase that occurs during the late adulthood or old age and is focused on reflecting back on life. Those who face conflicts at this stage will feel that their life has been wasted and will experience many regrets. The individual will be left with feelings of bitterness and despair. Those who feel proud of their accomplishments will feel a sense of integrity. As we grow older and become senior citizens, we tend to slow down our productivity and explore life as a retired person. It is during this time that we contemplate our accomplishments and are able to develop integrity if we see ourselves as leading a successful life. If we see our life as unproductive or feel that we did not accomplish our life goals, we become dissatisfied with life and develop despair, often leading to depression and hopelessness. The final developmental task is retrospection. That means people look back on their lives and accomplishments. They develop feelings of contentment and integrity if they believe that they have led a happily productive life. They may instead develop a sense of despair if they look back on a life of disappointments and unachieved goals. Now, we look into the summary of this theory. We see that Erikson's theory characterizes an individual advancing through the 8 life stages as a function of negotiating his or her biological forces and socio-cultural forces. We see that by and large, Erikson's view that development continues throughout the lifespan is a very significant and has received great recognition in this theory.